All right, folks, hope you're doing well. So, over the last week and a half, taking in your questions for anything games industry related. Thanks very much for submitting those questions. Much appreciated. And today I'm going to answer them as best as I can. Of course, the more videos that come out on the channel when I get time, we'll start to address some of these questions as well. But hopefully, after the end of today's video, you'll get a bit of a better understanding of what you were maybe inquiring about in the first place. So let's go through some of the questions. So 6 questions I believe I've gathered. I think I've gathered them all. Again, thanks for asking, and let's go through them. So question 1. Hope you're doing well. I was wondering if you had any tips on how to get into lighting. I was looking to get some lighting studies done for my portfolio, but not sure how to approach this. I assume that studios are looking for certain things when looking at lighting pieces. I was just wanting to get some insight on what that may be so I can start researching and improving. Okay, cool. So I do have a section in my longer lighting lecture on YouTube about portfolio. Give that a check out. But also to answer this, any tips? So lighting studies, you can go quite a few ways, right? You could get your favorite lighting from a game and apply it to a marketplace scene or your own environment. You can look at a painting and try and you go really abstract, make some spheres and cubes and try and match the lighting. I believe that's what they do in a lot of film lighting schools when they do these sort of lighting studies. Honestly, just any type of relight with construction shots. Get yourself a good marketplace asset. There's Unreal Marketplace. There's also standalone websites that sell Unreal packs. They do cost a fair bit, but they can give you quite a lot of creativity, or just get mega scans and dress your own scene. A lot of lighting is about, again, you can light things 100 different ways, right? So it's about your intention and matching the reference that you wanted to get. So just get in there and light some stuff is what I'd say is the simple answer to that. Yeah, studios are looking for lighting styles. If you can relight something multiple times, if you're paying attention to like baked lighting or shadows and how many times you're enabling shadows. I'd recommend having at least one baked piece on your portfolio if you can, if you're just graduating or trying to get into lighting, or just to improve your lighting as well, because doing baked lighting will help you be an environmental artist in the industry when you have to do your light maps for your lighting artists. So yeah, so I hope that helps. Question 2. Curious on your take. Do you think being career invincible is possible in the games industry climate? By that, I mean layoffs not being much of a financial hit, aka great salary income, and generally speaking, easy transition to other studios, regardless of the market, depending on if you're a technical artist. Right, so I know what you're getting at with this question. In the last there's always been layoffs over time, but in the last 2 years there has just been because social media now is so prevalent in games media. There's just been so many layoffs of really good staff. So I don't believe career invincibility exists unless you are the 1% of the 1%. Getting to that sort of state is something that takes a very long time, because as you get more experience, you will demand a higher salary, and you have to be worth that salary. You have to provide that value. So yeah, certain roles are like tech lighting artist is a very you see I have Python basics up here. It's a very mystical role. It differs. It's like a technical artist. It differs in every studio. So demystifying that is probably why it's so rare as well. But there are going to be people that can go straight into the next job. There'll be people that get stuck in limbo, no matter of the skill level. A lot of it really does depend on the soft skill side of the games industry, so the political side, who you know, how you work with them, and vice versa. So I'll never say never, but at least your first few years in industry, assume anything is possible is what I'd say. But yeah, I can imagine, like, let's take someone, the Raf Grassetti of lighting, for example, whoever that may be. Would they be out of a job long? Probably not. I know lighting artists that will get snapped up just like that, right? So it really does depend. Lighting is much more of a smaller world than environment art, I find. Environment art is already very small, but lighting seems to be even smaller. So you never know, right? So hopefully that answers that. I'm going to get through these quick to try and keep the video as short as possible. Question 3, much appreciated. Thank you very much for that. Some questions. So 2 questions. How do you demonstrate production knowledge in a breakdown when you are an entry level? Anything other than disable, enable lights? And how do you approach taking feedback from other folks? Just cold emailing and politely asking if the time fits in. Okay, so first question, I get it. If you're not in a production environment, how do you show production? So a few ways you can do it is show the lighting optimization view mode, that blue, green, red, white view mode. That will show your light overlaps. Show your lights in the light mixer. So what is enabled shadow wise? Have you got the log distance and fade distance on? Light mixer can show all of that. And show your disable, enable lights. That's all you pretty much need starting out. And if you are doing baked lighting, show your light maps if you are making them yourself. If not, you don't need to show them. But yeah, lighting optimization view mode, how you structure your lights. The light mixer will tell a lot of information about what you're doing. And then just show a picture of your lights in the environment and how they look. And that will give you everything you need for it in the grand scheme of things. You can take a look at my portfolio. And take a look at anyone we've portfolio reviewed so far. I think 2 people, Oscar and I think it was Bailey. So have a look at those. They generally have some good breakdowns as well. Before afters are really good. So yeah, there is a formula to it. How do you approach taking feedback? Discords. If you want lighting feedback, most of the main game art feedback, game art discords, in my opinion, they're not too great for that. Just because lighting is so specific. So if you want to get objective lighting feedback, I'd recommend you search up Lighting Bot on Google. It's run by a buddy of mine, Amit. It's on the lighting sheet as well. He runs a lighting Discord and a lighting course, but you can post your stuff on there for lighting feedback. So I'd recommend that. Yeah, you can always send your stuff to people if you ask politely for feedback. Time is, quite a commodity, right? You might also consider a mentorship, doing a mentorship or paying someone to do a portfolio review. These are very good ways to get some feedback as well on stuff that you're doing. So that would be the main one, I'd say, really, the lighting bot and doing what you suggested, as long as you ask politely. Question 4, would be very interested in knowing the overall concept of cinematic design from your POV. For some reason, this aspect is a little hard to pinpoint. So not 100% sure in terms of cinematic design, because when you have, in a lot of studios now, there's this another role called the camera artist. And the camera artist's job is to make cameras for cutscenes, animate them, set the focal length, and then the lighters go in after the camera artist. And usually you can get camera artists that usually do lighting as well. So a lot of the time it's the camera artists that are going to be setting up the feel of the cinematic along with the animation as well. So in terms of a lighting POV for cinematic design, a lot of it really comes down to the higher level creative eye of something. So what I mean by that is you have a cinematic or a cutscene and it's part of a larger story. What's happened before that in the story and what's going to happen after. And if you take all of those images and put them together, what does it look like? So a good example of this would be It, with Krusty the Clown, the evil Krusty the Clown. There is a part in that movie where I think it's the kid with the balloon, or there's a kid inside again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so forgive me on this. There's a kid in like a library or some sort of interior, and it's telephoto. It feels nice and comfortable, and then the kid goes down into like a basement or something like that, where Krusty the Clown is, and suddenly the camera gets wide angle. It goes to a lower focal length because it's uncomfortable, and the lighting changes as well. So a lot of these things mix in together in terms of the type of lens you pick and what's happening in the story. It's very high level, is what I'm saying. It's something you plan out in your storyboard or in your art direction to make sure that it goes from like comfortable and warm to cold and tight and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a much bigger aspect to it that includes the cinematography and the grading than just lighting. So I know that's a quick answer. I know it could be something that's discussed on a whole podcast or something like that, but a lot of the time it's something you don't really see in lighting portfolios because we're just lighting something in a single context. Whereas if you're lighting a cinematic, that's a series of cutscenes, or for a game, there's a bigger story there in terms of what's happening and how you're shooting it. But good question though, something for me to think of as well. Question 5, if you had to say a range of how many hours per week is it necessary to dedicate to 3D to get your first job, what would it be? So I taught at university for 6 years. I taught a lot of environment art students, and I've seen the timelines when people are ready for junior. A lot of it depends on your natural, I hate to say the word natural talent, but the natural level you're at, because people do start at different levels and do pick up skills quicker than others. So all of these people that got jobs that I know were working minimum 7.5 hours a day, and in a lot of cases even more. But the general timeline for when people got in, starting from when they entered the course, 3-year course, some of the top students, they were ready for junior employment after 2 years. They could have gone into a junior job instead of doing their final year of study. And then there's the second, percentile of that will get jobs right after graduation. And then the average, in my experience, someone that is at an average sort of level of learning that is putting in the time is usually 2 to 3 years after graduation, putting in full-time work. And that's, it's pretty scary. It's just the reality of the job. It's a very competitive field and you have to put in a lot of time. So you have to, whether you're doing self-study or university, you're looking at if you're super fast and have a natural knack for it, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years maximum over, from start to finish 5 years. And that's quite daunting if you're not going the university route. Again, there's exceptions to all the rules, but that's generally, in my experience, how long it takes. Because the creative field, right? You got to develop your eye to get to the minimum standard of what would look good professionally. And then when you get into the industry, there's a whole other mountain you can climb in terms of pushing your skill even further, right? But to get to a minimum quality of making 3D art that looks good, wouldn't look out of place in a game, there's a lot that goes into it. Baking high to low, texturing, set dressing, depending on the job role you're doing, lots of iterations. So expect anywhere from 3 to 5 year investment of time if you're starting from base level. And last question. So, okay, cool. Really grateful for knowledge again. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I'm glad it helps people and I learn a lot from it as well. So nice one. I've never worked in the games, but always wondered about the creative part. Does production provide you with a color script? How much time do you have to shot? Are there reviews in real time? So how does the industry work? So generally, you will have an art director that sits above the art team. So you have, your artists, environment artists, lighting artists, character artists. You'll have your leads for that department. And then you'll have an art director and then maybe a creative director above them. So it's the art director and creative director's job to steer the ship with color scripts, requesting concept art, setting the general mood. Those are the ones that need to think about the bigger picture. And then that filters down into the leads and the artists to implement that, maybe throw in some of their individual, not style, but individual creativity into the mix while sticking to the bigger art picture. So usually a studio will have an art Bible, which is a big document of how we're going to do the game, how it's going to look, the silhouettes, the color choices, the colors not to use, where the art direction lies. So, you know, sometimes they'll have a chart. Maybe on the left is Assassin's Creed, and maybe on the right is Sea of Thieves. And in between there at 50%, that's the art direction they're targeting. And then they'll break that out with references from movies, films, color scripts, concepts. And studios will usually have a pre-production period where they test out a bunch of stuff, tools, pipeline, art assets, so that when they go into production, you're good to go on what the bigger picture is. So that's usually how it works from the core setup of what's going on. For how much time you have, every team is run by a producer. Producer's job is to schedule you in and keep the project on track. Studios hire a lot of producers to keep things on track. So they will usually give you time estimates based on what you give them for tasks. So for environments, this can be months to years. For shots, again, it can be weeks to months. And to smaller shots, it can be days. It really depends on the task. So if you are doing some good practice you can do as a student is, if you're making lighting a shot or making an asset, time yourself on how long it takes, because that will help your estimation skills when you get into industry. Our reviews in real time. So you will get feedback from your lead. Eventually you'll get feedback from your art director. You'll have something called review gates, where the work you're doing will get reviewed in a meeting room of some sort on a TV, preferably like an OLED TV. And you'll get feedback for what's going on. You'll also get feedback from your lead on a more regular basis. And you can also get feedback from people that you're working with as well. It really depends. But yes, there will be official review gates and passes. So first pass, second pass, third pass, final. You will work in passes to get to the final product. So again, for this to run well, you really need a good art director, a good set of producers, and a good sort of pipeline for this sort of stuff in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that's all of the questions, I believe. If I missed anything, please do feel free to ask in the comments and I'll answer there. Glad you're enjoying the videos and the content. Have a look at the salary list on that I've posted. If you follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, we've got over 60 salaries for lighting artists in the world, and we've started to estimate some median salaries for the UK. So again, it should help people negotiate what they're worth and how they can get their promotions and stuff. But yeah, glad you like the content, folks. And in the next one, we'll see what we can cover. But peace.